Hey, what's up guys? And today you can breathe a sigh of relief. iOS 12.2 is finally here. I was wondering when it would drop, and today Apple dropped 12.2 Developer Beta 1. So on first appearance, it doesn't appear that too much has changed, but actually digging through it, I was able to find quite a bit that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere. So strap in, here are all the changes and new features added to iOS 12.2. All right, so to begin, let's jump into the control center, and over here, screen mirroring has a new icon. So as you can see, that has been updated. It looks nice. In here as well, it has been updated. So I've also noticed that in the control center, the overall menus themselves have become larger, a little bit more compact. Apple has certainly been putting some work into this. I also noticed that the play and backwards, forwards icons, they're all a little bit condensed, a little bit smaller. So Apple did work on those as well. Something I haven't seen mentioned anywhere is that there is a new icon here for the Airplay. It's now a darker shade of blue. So once you do select a speaker and jump back in, as you can see, it's now filled in entirely in the back. So definitely easier to see when that's clicked. Also, when you click on that, the icon for the play pause is slightly rounded, as you can see. It's not as stiff as this one, kind of looks more in place here. And also a new behavior I've noticed. So once you have a speaker selected, the actual icon here, instead of being wavy in this light blue, it's now a little bit of a darker solid blue, and it no longer ebbs and flows like that. Now also, if we jump into the Apple TV remote over here, it has a full screen interface now. So before, this is what it looked like. Now it's a little bit cleaner, makes more use of your display here, and it now supports Airplay to TVs. So you can now control more TVs through this remote here, and that functionality extends into the Home app. You can actually control Airplay to TVs using your Home app. The functionality is pretty basic right now, just turn off the TV, turn it on, but that's going to be expanded with more support, of course, in the future. Now this change here, I can't reproduce myself. A lot of people are saying that their cellular icon toggle has been replaced with the AirDrop one in the control center. So if you have that, let me know which device it's for down below, but I couldn't get it to work on my 7, and I don't see it on any of the newer devices. Now on the left is 12.2, and when you search for a song now in iOS 12.2, and you go into the results for the songs or the artists, you're gonna notice that they're gonna appear much larger now. So the list has been made less condensed, and I'm not sure I like this change. I like to be able to see more of the songs right away instead of having to scroll more. And this has to be one of the coolest changes to 12.2. Hey Siri, play Roomba from my music library. So look at that. She now has an API for a custom music player directly within Siri Kits. That is awesome. You can control your music, control the volume in here. It's so clean. I absolutely love this. But the most pointless thing, and I'm sure this will be updated, why? Why is this blocking my inputs? I literally cannot see where I left the volume slider. That is such an oversight. In general, Apple, get rid of this bastard. There's no reason this volume HUD should exist this late into iOS. That's just embarrassing. In the Health app, there's an updated prompt for improved health and activity. They rearranged some of the choices and updated the description to be much larger now. And Apple's actually put some considerable time into the Wallet app, so they've updated several things. For one, the plus icon is now a solid black, so ties in a little bit more, I guess. Also, there's new animations when selecting the cards. It flows a little bit smoother, not so abrupt, but the animation itself takes a little bit longer. And also, recent transactions will appear like this below the card, so a friendlier way to show those. And when you actually look into that transaction, there's a really cool new interface, shows you where it was made, very friendly all around. Now in the Maps settings, there's a new option here for air quality index. So now on top of the weather, when you zoom into a certain location in Maps, you'll also notice the air quality index right here, right below it. So it indicates it's pretty good. It's green right now. I assume it'll turn red in really bad areas. And also, I haven't had this option before for weather conditions in Maps. It's new for me, but it might not be a new feature altogether. Also, a user on iOS beta shared this. There's a new category called films inside of the TV application where previously there wasn't. Now for users in Canada, Apple has finally made the news application available. I cannot believe it took this long. You guys can finally join the civilized world and know what's going on now. Okay, that's a joke, but also in the settings for news, Apple removed an option, and that's always show the next up option. It has been removed. I cannot see it here anymore. And 9to5Mac is reporting that in the news application, there are signs that Apple is moving towards a subscription package here, so they're going to be making that available in the future. In the podcast settings, scroll down, and I am no longer able to see the version number here. So Apple has been hiding that off of the apps in settings, so you really can't tell if they've updated that or not. And check this out. So now when searching in Safari, your search results will have this little icon right next to them indicating it's ready to search. Previously that was not available. As you can see, it's a blank here, so a nice little glyph change. Also, Safari does now loudly proclaim on the top if you're not using a secure site. So same website on iOS 12.2 on the left, it'll say not secure up there in the search bar. And also Safari supports several new features here in iOS 12.2, one of those being a color picker. So you'll now be able to get this prompt right here with this interface directly in Safari when choosing a color if a website prompts it. Also in the Safari settings, there's a new option here for motion and orientation access. So if you want to share that info, I don't know why, but if an advertiser or a website wants that information, you can give them access to that if you want to. It's the usefulness of this that I'm not sure about. Is it just for ads, or are websites going to use this in a creative and cool way? I guess time will tell. And also a setting in the Safari settings that I noticed was removed is ask websites not to track me. You can no longer enable that. And I assume that's because Apple made that default, so you no longer have to enable that. They're just implementing it into Safari, but I'm not sure on that. So if anyone knows the answer why that disappeared, let me know. Also in the Safari settings, jumping into the experimental features, I noticed there were a ton of new ones. So Apple is definitely working on Safari a lot with this version. They've removed some of the options, added new ones, definitely working on this though. And also in the accessibility settings, jumping into VoiceOver here, you'll notice the description has been condensed and made easier to read, so now it doesn't take up as much room here. And developer Rambo notes a developer change here that there's a new private system framework on iOS 12.2 called CloudKit Code. Now, I'm not even going to pretend to know what that means, but I just wanted you to be aware that this is a change. And here's another change I'm not too fond of, and that's in the control center. So when putting your device into airplane mode and then actually kicking it out of it, you no longer get that cool animation in the signal status bar. It's just flat. It's not even looking for service here. Now, I'm not sure how applicable this is to any of you guys, but if your corporation or job requires you install a certificate, you can now do so fully for a root certificate on 12.2. And there's rumor that in iOS 12.2, Apple has been working on the Intel modem issues. So if you were having any sort of signal issues in 12.1.3, which some users were, apparently Apple's been working on that and might fix it with the final release. So a couple of things about iOS 12.2. Before updating, I had 10 gigabytes available. After 8.74, so it absorbed over a gigabyte just to install. I'm totally fine with that in the name of improvements. As long as you have the storage, just want you to be aware it will take a little bit extra this time around. The overall update was almost 3 gigabytes, 2.8, so there are bound to be more changes here. When it's this big, I'm sure more will crop up, but overall, that's what I could find in iOS 12.2, and it's pretty big, I guess, but it's a lot of smaller stuff. Apple, come on. How much do we have to beg to get a dark mode? How much do we have to beg to get an always-on display? Just basic things that I feel like the iPhone would excel at. There's no reason not to have those features. Anyways, I wanted to take a look at the speed with a Geekbench. Let's see how it compares to the last version. Okay, and here's that Geekbench result. So previously we had 11,000 on the multi, a very high single core score on 12.1. After updating, it did go down just a little bit on the multi-core score, but with the final release of 12.2, I'm sure that will recover. This is a non-issue. Okay guys, there it is, iOS 12.2 beta 1. This is a pretty significant release, and with the other betas, I'm sure we're going to see more optimizations and changes, so I'll keep an eye out for all of that. Definitely my favorite feature from this release has to be the new player with Siri that can play your music directly within the Siri interface. Super cool update. Overall though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace.